Some people grow up learning how to be kids. I grew up learning how to be a parent with no authority. I'm the younger one. My brother Imran is 3 years older than me, and somehow that age gap became a personality type in our house. He was the hot-headed one, the emotional one, the we just have to understand him one. I was the opposite, the mature, the calm, the you're strong beta you'll manage one. It sounds flattering until you realize what it really means. He was allowed to explode. I was expected to absorb it. One of my earliest memories of this imbalance is a winter morning when we were kids. We didn't have much money growing up. Our heater was an old, sulking thing that only worked in the living room, and even then, only when you kicked it at the right angle. I must have been 7. He was 10. We had one really good blanket in the house. Thick, warm, almost luxurious compared to the others. My parents would spread it over us in the living room so we could sleep there together on extra cold nights. One night I woke up shivering. The blanket was bunched around Imran's shoulders, wrapped like a cocoon. My side of the mattress was nearly bare, cold air biting my skin. I tugged the edge gently. Move it a little. I'm freezing. He grunted and pulled it tighter around himself. Half asleep, half selfish. I tried again. My fingers were numb. Tears burned my eyes. He kicked my hand away. Stop it. You're so annoying. I went to my parents' room, barefoot on icy tiles, and whispered, Mama, I'm cold. Imran took the blanket. My mother glanced at the clock, groaned softly, and said, Just adjust, Aisha. He tosses in his sleep. You're stronger, you'll manage. Don't wake him. He has school early. I remember standing there in the dark hallway, feeling small and silly, like I'd asked for something unreasonable. That night, I slept with my sweater over my legs and both hands tucked under my thighs just to feel a little less exposed. That was the first time I thought, if it's between his comfort and mine, they'll always pick his. That pattern never really broke. Just changed clothing. When we were teenagers and he'd slam doors, my parents would say, He's under pressure. Don't argue with him. When he borrowed money from my mom's savings and forgot to return it, they'd say, He's trying his best. We have to support him. When he dropped out of his first degree, my father sat with him for hours, explaining how life gives second chances. When I got sick during my exams, my mother told me, You're smart. You'll catch up. He got cushions. I got expectations. It didn't surprise me when he rushed into marriage with a woman just like him. Dramatic, impulsive, always the victim in her own story. They fought loudly, loved loudly, blamed loudly. They had their first baby, Zara, a year later. Then another, Hamza, 2 years after that. From the second those kids were born, it was like the universe handed me a role I didn't audition for but somehow knew all the lines to. The emergency adult. When they needed someone to babysit last minute, they called me. When they needed money for formula because they'd miscalculated again, they called me. When they needed someone to talk to the school because they'd both overslept on parent-teacher day, they called me. Thank God we have you, my mom would say, squeezing my hand. You're like a second mother to them. Except I wasn't. I didn't get a say in their big decisions. I didn't get asked before commitments were made on my behalf. I was just expected to show up. Once I joked to my mom, if they're my kids too, can I decide their bedtime? She laughed. You know what I mean. You're responsible. They're still figuring it out. I wanted to say, they're figuring it out on those children's faces. Instead, I swallowed the words like I swallowed everything else. 'Cause I loved those kids. I really did. Zara with her messy ponytail and habit of holding my hand even when we were just watching TV. Hamza with his serious little frown and the way he'd lean into me like I was the safest armchair in the world. They made me soft in places I thought had hardened permanently. But the more I loved them, the more I hated the way my brother and his wife Saba treated their lives like a set of optional responsibilities. They'd leave them with me for an hour, and come back 6 hours later, smelling like shisha and late-night food. They'd argue in front of them until Zara covered Hamza's ears herself. They'd tell them, "Stop being dramatic," when they cried about things kids are supposed to cry about. Once, when Zara was 5, she whispered to me, "Why is everyone always shouting?" I didn't have an answer, so I started doing what I'd always done, filling in the gaps. I bought them coats when winter came and my brother said, "We'll get them next month, they're fine till then." I took them to the doctor when they had fevers and their parents were too busy at work. I showed up on school days with snacks when I heard from my mother that they had to skip breakfast. It was hectic. Thought this was love. Maybe it was. But it was also something else. A quiet rehearsal for the night I'd have to decide if love meant staying silent or stepping in. That night came in January. The cold kind of January. The kind where the air cuts through cracks in the window frame and the floor never really warms up. It was a Friday. My brother had mentioned earlier in the week that he and Saba were going out with friends. He called my mom, not me. "Just keep your phone on," he'd told her, "in case they wake up and get scared." My mother had relayed the information to me like it was weather news. I remember pausing over my tea. "They're leaving them alone. At night. They'll be sleeping," she said. "Don't overreact. They're not babies anymore." "They're 6 and 8, I said. "That's still very much babies in alone in a house years." She sighed. "If you say anything, they'll say you're judging them. You know how your brother is." He knew. That evening I lay awake longer than usual, scrolling mindlessly, trying not to imagine all the things that could go wrong. I almost messaged Saba. "Send me a picture of them asleep so I know they're okay." I didn't. I told myself I was being dramatic, just like my family always said. Then the knocking came. Well, repeated. Checked my phone. 4:27 a.m. The kind of time nothing good ever happens. I pulled on my sweater, heart already racing, and went to the door. The porch light spilled pale yellow over 2 small figures on the step. Zara. Hamza. Bare feet on concrete. Flimsy cartoon pajamas. Toes red from the cold. Arms wrapped around themselves. Their breath puffed out in little urgent clouds. For half a second my brain refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. Then reality slammed in. "Oh my God," I gasped, yanking the door open wider. Get inside, why are you?" Zara stumbled in first, crying without sound. Just that sharp, broken inhale kids do when they're far past scared. Hamza followed, clutching her sleeve with one hand and a single sad-looking stuffed dinosaur with the other. I shut the door, locked it, then dropped to my knees in front of them. Their fingers were ice. Their noses were raw. Hamza's lips were actually blue at the edges. "Where are your shoes?" I asked, trying not to sound panicked and failing completely. "Where are your coats? Where's Mama and Daddy?" Zara looked up at me with eyes I'd never forget. "They left," she said. "We woke up and it was cold and dark. We called and called, but no one came." Hamza's voice was a whisper. "The light outside was on. We could see it from the window. We remembered you live near. So we came." "Came how?" I asked slowly, every word like stepping on glass. "We walked," Zara said simply. "It was freezing. But Daddy said you always overreact. So we tried not to." He tried to laugh. Came out as a cough. Something in me snapped so cleanly I almost heard it. This was no longer about a bigger blanket or a missed phone or a forgotten school event. This was my brother choosing his night out over their basic safety. This was my family's generational training in don't overreact, almost costing 2 kids something they could never get back. I wrapped them in blankets, turned the heater up, made hot chocolate with hands that shook. As they slowly thawed on my couch, feet tucked under them, shoulders pressed into my sides, one thought kept looping in my head. They walked to me because they believed I would care more than the people who created them. And if I kept playing the understanding sister now, I'd be proving every terrible instinct my parents had ever taught us. That morning, watching cartoons flicker on low volume while they drifted off, I made a decision. For the first time in my life, I was going to overreact. On purpose. And the fallout from that choice would rip our family wide open. They fell asleep eventually. Zara's head against my shoulder. Hamza curled into my side with one small hand twisted in my shirt like an anchor. The heater hummed. The sky outside shifted from black to deep navy to that tired gray that means the world is waking up. My phone lay on the coffee table. Green dark. I stared at it for a long time. Every version of the old me picked it up in my head. Version 1, call my mom. Let her handle it. Soften the edges. Turn this into a story about kids sneaking out instead of what it was. Version 2, call my brother. Start with, don't be angry but, then rush to reassure him that they're fine now before he got defensive. Version 3, do nothing. Let the kids sleep, drop them back later, swallow it as one more thing. I know but don't say. Every version had the same center. Protect him. Then Zara shivered in her sleep and whispered, I'm sorry, Hamza. Like she was apologizing for not keeping him warm enough. That was the moment it stopped being about my brother's reputation. It became about them. And about me finally choosing them over the family narrative. I picked up the phone and, for the first time in my life, I dialed the emergency hotline before I called anyone in my family. My voice was steady. Too steady. 2 children, 6 and 8, walked to my apartment alone at about 4:30 a.m., I told the woman on the other end. No shoes, no coats in winter. Their parents were out. They've done things like this before but never this bad. I think this is neglect. Saying that word out loud felt like stepping off a cliff. Neglect. Not, they're a bit careless. Not, they're overwhelmed. Not, they're trying their best. Neglect. The operator's voice was calm, clinical. She asked their names, ages, addresses. She asked if they were safe now. Warm. Fed. Said yes. Then she said, we'll file this. Depending on your local services, someone may follow up. When I hung up, my hands were shaking but my breathing slowed. I hadn't called to have them taken away. I wasn't there yet. The thought terrified me as much as it would them. I'd called to create a record. A line in some government database that said, on this date at this time someone noticed. 'Cause I knew my brother. I knew my parents. I knew the way they'd spin this later. You're overreacting, Aisha. It wasn't that serious. Now there'd be something bigger than their opinion to answer to. At 7:15 a.m. my phone finally rang. Not my mother. Not my brother. But the name flashed on my screen like a warning sign. Answered. Where are the kids? She practically shrieked, skipping hello entirely. Are they with you? Yes, I said calmly. They're sleeping. They walked here at 4:30 in the morning. Slept, she gasped. They left the house. Oh my God. Why didn't you call us? I let that sit for a moment. Irony. Where were you? Asked. She went defensive instantly. Out. With friends. What, are we not allowed a night out now? You're allowed anything you want, I said. You're just not allowed to leave 2 children alone long enough that they think their best option is walking through freezing streets in pajamas. They're exaggerating, she said. It wasn't that cold. They had no shoes on, Saba, I snapped. It is January. They were shaking so hard I thought I'd have to take them to the hospital. She went quiet. For 2 seconds. Then her voice came back, brittle and high. Imran is going to kill them, she muttered. You should have just kept them till morning and brought them back. Why create drama? There it was. The family script. Took a breath. I called the emergency line, I said. Silence. Then an explosion. Are you insane? She screamed. You called child services on your own brother. Are you trying to get his kids taken away? Zara stirred at the raised voice. I stepped into the hallway, closing the door gently behind me. I called to report what happened, I said. Because if you won't take responsibility, someone has to. Aisha, you have always been like this, she spat. Little Miss Perfect, acting like you're better than everyone. We made one mistake. One. Cut in. One. You left them alone at night. They have told me you do that all the time. They're lying, she snapped. Zara's voice floated faintly from the living room. We're not. Saba heard it too. Don't you dare put words in their mouths, she hissed. Wait till Imran hears. You are finished in this family. There it was. The threat I'd spent my whole life being afraid of. Finished. I'd rather be finished than complicit, I said quietly. Hung up. My phone buzzed immediately with more calls. My mother. Then my father. Then Imran himself. I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead I made breakfast. Zara and Hamza woke up slowly, confusion giving way to relief when they remembered where they were. I gave them warm clothes from my emergency stash. A few spare sweaters. Socks I kept for exactly these, they came from school unprepared kind of days. We ate in pajamas, cartoons on low volume. Are we in trouble? Hamza asked at one point, crumbs on his chin. You said. No. You did the bravest thing I've ever seen. Zara's eyes filled with tears. Daddy said you're too emotional and you'll make it a big deal. I smiled sadly. This time I will. By 9 a.m. there was pounding on my door. The adult kind. Heavy, entitled. I opened it halfway. Imran stood there, hair messy, face tight. Saba slightly behind him, arms folded. My mother hovered near the stairs, worry etched into her forehead. My father was a distance away, watching, mouth a hard line. Where are my kids? Imran demanded. Safe, I said. Inside. Warm. You're welcome. He bristled. What the hell do you think you're doing, Aisha? Calling agencies, telling strangers we left them alone. You want us arrested. I want you to act like parents, I said. His eyes flashed. He tried to push past me. I stepped in front of the doorway, heart hammering. You're not shouting in front of them, I said. You've done enough of that in their lives. Behind me I heard the TV volume go up. Zara pretending not to hear. Hamza pressing closer to her. Imran laughed, a hard, humorless sound. Who do you think you are? Their mother. In practice.